Anine, bonjour. Welcome. My name is Sarah Cunningham. I am the Women's Advocacy Project Coordinator for the Women's Advocacy Council for the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We are doing a series of interviews with women candidates here in Simcoe County. Today with me is Krystal Brooks. She is part of the Green Party here for Simcoe-North. So welcome, Krystal. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm curious, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am 28 years old and I'm from Rama First Nation, and I am a survivor of the child welfare system and human trafficking. And I have experienced homelessness, and I am an addict and an alcoholic in recovery. I have a very vast personal experience that I'm able to bring to the table in this election, which I think is really important. And Indigenous people, something that we often experience is environmental racism, along with other prejudices and injustices. But environmental racism is something that is impacting not only marginalized communities, so Indigenous people, Black people, people of color, but it's also it has huge impacts on climate change. And so I have been an advocate for a number of years now, and just a lot of different things, but the water and the environment is something that means a lot to me. And I also advocate for MMIW, like missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit. I suppose I could classify that as like treaty violations. I did a number of things when the pipeline was being pushed through sovereign Indigenous territory out west, and there's just a lot of things that I have been involved in, and politics is not something I ever saw myself entering into, but I feel very blessed for this opportunity because it allows me to continue to advocate for all of these things and more, and do that on a platform that allows me to reach a broader audience, which I have never had that opportunity before. I find that having this running under the green banner and having this opportunity, it really it allows me to reach more people, and that's really important in this. And we have often been silenced and ignored, and as women we face even more struggles in that regard. So this is something that has been very eye-opening for me, and it's been very just amazing. It's been an amazing roller coaster. So.
Absolutely. Well, and you have been such an advocate in the front lines for many years, many years. And so with that lived experience, to be able to bring those policies and procedures, legislations forward, I think that is absolutely incredible and inspiring. So what actually kind of inspired you? What was the lead up for you to run in this federal election? How did that come about?
So I was approached by a previous candidate, previous Green Party candidate here in Simcoe-North, and I think he had come across my some of my posts online, and it piqued his interest. And I think that he saw something that would make me a good candidate. And I feel that my personal experience is exactly what makes me an ideal candidate, and I can bring that to Ottawa. But I think that he was inspired reading some of my posts, and he had approached me about it. And it was kind of funny, really. I thought that he was I thought that he would be running and that I would be asked to help his campaign. And I would have been perfectly willing to do that because I wanted to get involved in something like that. And then at the end of the conversation, he just snowballed that in there. And I was like, wow. But he has given me, because the nomination came from him, he has given me this opportunity, and I'm just very thankful for that.
Yeah, I was thinking when you mentioned to bring it to Ottawa, I'm thinking you often go to Ottawa. You're at the front line again, but to be able to have this chance actually at the table to make
Yeah.
change. So I love that. Absolutely. And so what has being a woman, um, I have been talking to all the women candidates here in Simcoe County and doing some interviews. And so what has your experience been so far? What have been some of the challenges, some of the barriers, but also the successes?
So some of the barriers I would say are, oftentimes in the social media world, I put messages out there, or I try to, just educate on a particular issue. Um, it's not, I suppose, a barrier so much as it is an issue. There are a lot of men commenting on these videos or sending me private messages where they're very just inappropriate, and like those kinds of things don't happen to men in situations like this. And I think that it's notable to mention that this is still happening in our workplace, and it's not okay. There is still a lot of sexism going on, and it's very hard for me oftentimes to put things out there after something like that has happened, for just that little bit of hesitancy, because I know it's going to happen, and it does regularly. And yeah, so that's been an issue, and a little
Yeah,
bit.
and you're not the first one to mention that. And unfortunately, it is happening. It's almost like we have to put out a card to people about etiquette of kindness. Share your opinion and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is no need. And that's one thing, that especially the Women's Advocacy Council and that personal security, right? That we're really trying to push forth that safety, personal safety in your workplace. And whether it's on social media, whether you are a politician or not, there is absolutely no need for any form of violence, because we could call it harassment, we could call it racism, we could call it all of these other labels. But when it really comes down to it, it is it's an act of violence. It's a form of violence that, hopefully one day, I keep on saying, I dream that there will be no need for shelters and the need to protect our women, because we'll be living in a different world where we will be free of violence. So yes, thank you so much for shedding light on that. And unfortunately, you're not the only one. And hopefully, in the upcoming elections, that we'll be able to move forward collectively, find a solution for that. So thank you for mentioning that. So what has been some of your successes? What has the more enjoyable parts of running?
My favorite part of this has been actually canvassing and just getting out there and talking with the public. That has been my absolute favorite part. And I've knocked on doors where there's been a conservative sign right there, and they're so kind, and they're willing to listen, and not even listen. I've noticed a pattern where they just want somebody to listen to them, but they're also willing to listen to you, which is just really, really great. But yeah, no, the people have been my favorite part in this.
Yes. That's amazing to hear that. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Uh, so what are some of the next steps in the election? Obviously, we're very close to E-Day. What are some of the next steps? So even on E-Day, like what happens on that day with the team itself, right? I've often wondered, I'm like, what happens in that room?
So we have plans to just really, honestly, we're just going to try and hit every area in the riding
Okay.
on day. I do have to vote. So like I haven't voted yet, so it's going to be really strange seeing my name on that ballot. But
Can you take a picture? Are you going to take a picture?
I was actually hoping they would give me a ballot. So
Give
I'll do that, but I'm definitely going to take a picture of it.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Yes, it's coming up soon, right? E-Day. And it's been amazing actually with the federal election, how they've really um with the advanced polls and also in long-term care settings too, to be able to provide our seniors and that aren't able to actually go out. There's been this openness of that election kind of process to be able to vote this year, which has really opened it up a bit.
Yeah, that's really important. And I was told that seniors, because oftentimes they don't have their ID when they're in there, somebody else is holding that for them. So I was told that all they need is, their like their chart. So the nursing home can literally just take them to the polling stations and show their chart, and they can vote that way.
Oh
So
my
they
gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, they don't need the ID or the proof of address.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that. So that's amazing. That's good to know. Absolutely. So there's quite a few regulations in terms of some campaigning, what you are able to do, what you need to do. Um, Through that process, can you maybe name a couple that you've learned throughout running in this election?
Probably the biggest one is you can't just put signs anywhere. Um, yeah, there's been a couple of spots where we thought it was okay to put a sign there, but no, it wasn't. So, just learning curves. But I can't think of anything really offhand. I've learned a lot about the process of becoming a candidate. I had no idea there was so much to the process, and it's opened my eyes a lot, but it's given me just a whole new respect for any and all candidates, past and future, for doing this. And, there's a lot that goes into it. And I think it's admirable
Mhm.
for.
How long is that process? So if you are approached to be a candidate, how long was that process for you?
For me, it would have been, it was less than a month.
Oh, wow. Okay. They're really doing some vetting there. Okay.
Other candidates, it's taken several months to be vetted. So I think it varies, but there is
Okay.
quite a process to the vetting.
Wow. Okay. And so apart from the vetting, then there was the signatures, correct? And then you
Yeah.
had to get so many, about 150
Uh,
signatures.
So you need 100, but
Okay.
it's best to get more because some of those signatures, they comb through those very, very carefully, and they're very, I'm not getting picky isn't the right word, but they're just very, they have to verify the address, they have to verify the name, they have to, they have their own process that they have to do over at Elections Canada. So, in the off case that a signature isn't accepted, it's just best to get more than what you need. So I was able to get, I think in total we had 123, and all of them were accepted. There was no issues. So I was lucky that way. I've heard a story of a candidate who had their signatures, and this was in this election. It was a Green Party candidate. They had their signatures, and only 99 were approved. So they were not approved by Elections Canada. They weren't able to run. So
Couldn't they go back out and get some more signatures if that happens?
I would have to look more into that process,
Yeah.
but sounds of it, they weren't able to. And I feel that that maybe had something to do with the snap election and the timing of everything. But
Okay, right.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes. So what are some of your campaign, Green Party, Simcoe-North, that you are wanting to bring to Ottawa and work towards making, whether it's change or to improve upon other processes, and or bring into Simcoe County and also bring up to Ottawa? So what's your campaign about?
So it's very environmentally focused. But there's also like housing is very important to me. But just some things that I would like to just bring to Ottawa is, like water. I think that, it is a provincial issue, but I think that it needs to be a federal issue with federal policies in place and national protections for our water. Um, as far as housing goes, there's some things like putting a block on foreign investment and, just a vacancy tax. There's so many buildings here in Simcoe North alone that they sit empty, and they've been sitting empty for years. And it's just really, really sad, especially when you know how many people are in the shelters and how many people can't get into the shelters because the shelters are overwhelmed,
Mhm.
and how many are living on the streets and just in motel rooms. And like it's such a crisis. And so just really tackling the homeless crisis and just adequate and affordable housing is really, really important in this. And, tackling the mental health crisis that we're in right now, and the opioid crisis, like the drug crisis, and just addressing those as mental health, which is, in my opinion, is healthcare.
Mhm.
Um, they're not criminal issues; they're mental health issues, and they're not being treated as that. And I think there's more that we can be doing. And I've been kind of disappointed in this election. Just some of the issues that are so important haven't been talked about much, even by the federal leaders. I haven't heard anybody talk about Fairy Creek yet, which is interesting, because that is a huge issue. Um,
And
but yeah.
sorry, yes, and I'm like, what's that about? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's so there's Indigenous protesters out in Fairy Creek, and their rights are being infringed upon, and it's an environmental crisis out there, and it's something we see all too often.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
similar to Wet'suwet'en.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what are some other issues that you would also like to see being addressed?
Truth and reconciliation is a very big one. Um,
Yeah. Can I ask you, what does that mean to you? What does truth and reconciliation mean to you?
For me right now, I think that we're not at the reconciliation stages. We are at the truth stages. And I think that our truths need to be acknowledged. and we need to be heard, and we need to be given that space to be heard. And we're just entering that truth stage right now. We um, all of Canada was shocked by the discovery of those children at the residential schools, but that's something that we've been living with for our entire lives. And we haven't been silent about that. And we were often silenced or ignored on this issue. And it's still happening, it's still continuing today through the child welfare system and the judicial process. And that's not being addressed, and it needs to be. Over half of children in care are Indigenous. That is an issue.
Mhm.
So I think that there's so many ongoing issues right now that we are just absolutely not at the reconciliation stage. But it's important to acknowledge that truth comes before reconciliation. So I think that truth is the step toward reconciliation.
I do agree with you. Being an Indigenous woman myself, those truths definitely need to be heard and listened to, and especially this year where we've really seen it. We've heard our elders and our community members, our residential school survivors, their children as well, talk about those missing children that never came back to school, and the ones that were buried, but then the ones that were not buried, that were displaced elsewhere. So there's definitely it's been a learning to most Canadians as well, that it's like just the unraveling of the truth of how Canada was formed and the treatment of its people. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that also, truth and reconciliation, like Indigenous people, we can no longer be told what that looks like for us, which is often how it goes. I think that it needs to come from Indigenous people, you know,
Mhm.
get to decide what that looks like for us. And I think that it starts with self-governance and control over our own children and our own resources and our own just way of life.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially our babies, keeping our babies home in the
Yes.
community, and for them to have that good life. And I you mentioned that you're from Rama First Nation, as am I, and it's been incredible the steps forward that even Rama has made throughout the process. But not all First Nations are like that, or have that the the I guess the accessibility to
Mhm.
funding like Rama. Mhm. Yeah. And so in terms of the truth and reconciliation, I know that you've been doing a lot of advocating for that, uh, since I can remember you as a little girl. And so what else are you really wanting to also, what are you not seeing in the lab in, or wanting to address more so to
Uh,
Ottawa?
as far as truth and reconciliation goes,
Hmm.
um, I think the biggest thing would be that these issues are ongoing, and
Mhm.
there's and this the system was built on systemic racism, and dismantling that systemic racism is crucial for our people and for all of Canada.
Yeah.
um, just really addressing those internal issues is a big one.
Mhm. And I know that you had mentioned murdered and missing Indigenous women, uh, women and girls, and Two-Spirited. And there has been quite a bit of talk about that the last couple of months. What do you think are some of the next steps?
Implementing the recommendations, which do include our children. There's a whole section on there about our children being taken, and it talks about food security, housing security, our basic human needs being met. And those are some of the recommendations. And it talks about how many women are incarcerated in our jails, and it just talks about so much. And encounters,
Mhm.
healthy encounters, which oftentimes we never see, you
Mhm.
know uh, and how those encounters really really impact a person's life. One negative encounter with a police officer can frame your entire life and opinion on our policing systems. And that is a system that once again was put in place specifically to oppress Indigenous people, with the RCMP. And it's it's crucial for people to have that trust in our policing systems. And I feel that that's very lacking. And there's just so much to the MMIW final inquiry, like the final report.
Mhm.
And, just really, really working towards implementing those recommendations along with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations, which I am told that most are in the process of being implemented. But I think that Indigenous people need to be a part of that process. I don't think anyone really like knows that these recommendations are in the process of being implemented. To most of the public, they just see that they haven't been implemented. But I think that if the government were to make Indigenous people a part of this process, it would really make a difference. And that's part of that free, prior, and informed consent. And that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. And even just for updates too, in terms of what is falling under them, right? Just an updated kind of report in terms of what is happening, I think is that I guess that's transparency. And we know as any organization, whether it's a small organization or a government, that there's always behind the scenes actions that are taking and recommendations that sometimes the general public isn't being made aware of, or knows that something is in the works. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's excellent. So we are today is Friday, Monday is E-Day. Is Where are you going to be from now until Monday? Is there any events that you are taking part of that people can come maybe do a meet and greet with you? And do you need any more help? Is it too late for people to help out? And if it's not too late, what are some roles and responsibilities that some volunteers can do?
Yeah, so it is a bit late. So we were actually, I had plans to just do some more canvassing and just meeting with more people, and just trying to talk to as many people as I can before that election day. And yeah, I haven't made it out to Midland much. So I was hoping to canvas a little bit more in Midland and that area. Yeah, there's a few areas that I haven't hit yet. And yeah, I think that trying to reach as many people as we can in this is really important. And not everybody has Facebook, and you
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
yeah.
Absolutely. So for that, because I will be uploading this video to all our social medias and that, how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to have a discussion or any questions? How can they get a hold of you?
So I do have a Facebook page, and it's under Krystal Brooks for Simcoe-North. Um, and I do also have an email. So it's krystalbrooks1234@gmail.com. I also have my personal cell phone, which I have handed out because it's nice to connect with me directly. I don't want to give people numbers that they have to go through somebody else to get to me. So yeah, no,
Love that. I love it.
there's a lot of ways to connect with me, and I'm always happy to hear from people.
Aw. Well, thank you so much, Krystal. Like, chimigwech, and merci for your time today. And I am wishing you all the best over the next few days. And I just think it's just inspiring that you're running in this election, and very much thankful for you to step up and want to make change here in Simcoe County and to bring it into Ottawa on at the tables. So Chimigwech. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
No, thank you so much for this. This was really nice. Thank you.
Okay. Chimigwech and Bamapi.
Bye, Muppy.